If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place.
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown. He's going to fire upfield. It's broken up. Tipped and intercepted by the Colts.
This is the official Colts Podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
Colts have it. Interception. 2 seconds left, and the Colts are going to win.
In the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio, let's get the podcast started.
Hello again, and welcome to the official Colts Podcast on a Thursday. It's starting to be fall around central Indiana here in the Midwest. We got the foliage. We got all the different colors on the trees. My yard is looking quite fallish, Casey Vallier. Come on over with a rake, Bill, if you got one.
No. Come to my house with a rake.
No. Casey can vouch. You need to come to me this time.
Matt's got quite the tree. See, this is the thing. I just built a new house, so my trees are, they're very young. No leaves in my yard. It is wonderful.
I've got some 100-year-old sycamores and maples. You name it, I got it, pal.
I've got the same. Some
I was up
maples,
there. I was on the roof.
birch.
I was on the roof blowing them yesterday, or on Saturday, I should say. I was like breaking my neck, man. But that's the time of year we're at. And we are happy that you are here on a Thursday. Again, we got the crew here. Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier, I'm Matt Taylor. We got Colts and Saints coming up as the Colts wrap up the month of October. It's been a crazy month here. 4 of 5 games at home for the Colts during this stretch. But I think 4 of the next 5 after this Sunday on the road. Trips to Carolina and then a trip to Germany. Was magst du gern in deiner Freizeit there, Casey.
There it is. There's that German coming in handy. I don't know what you just said, but sure, Matt, whatever.
I said your hair looks great.
Oh, well,
no, I said, what do you like to do in your free time? And that's podcast with us, Bill.
Well, of course.
That's right.
Much free
That's
time.
right.
Join us.
It's also, too, we are 5 days away from Halloween. So this is the Halloween edition of the podcast here. We're also brought to you by Wynn Las Vegas. So we're talking about, in the spirit of Halloween, we're talking about the scary good for this team and also the scary parts that are kind of still rearing their ugly head here and going into week number 8 for this Indianapolis Colts team. We'll talk about the defensive troubles there in the fourth quarter, not being able to get the job done and close out that game against the Browns last Sunday. Obviously, the NFL came out and told Jim Irsay there was some things that we screwed up, our bad. I don't know if Jim Irsay should have been saying that, but he did, so it's out there, and we'll react to that. So we're also going to have a conversation here on the podcast today with Kenny Moore II. There's nobody playing scarier good than Kenny Moore. He leads the NFL among all cornerbacks and tackles for loss. He had a sack and a half. He had a career day in many aspects last Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. So let's talk about the scary good for this team right now, and that's big plays on offense. Bill, you look at it, the Colts have the 4th most plays over 20 yards in the NFL this season with 33 of them. Against the Browns, Josh Downs had a big play, had multiple big plays actually. Michael Pittman Jr. had the 75-yard catch for a touchdown. The Colts had some long runs by Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. The Colts have racked up a season high. They had a season high 8 plays over 20 against the Browns, but in the last 3 games, gentlemen, the Colts have 17 plays over 20, 7 over 30, 6 over 40, and 2 over 50. So this offense right now is scary good, especially in the big play category, Bill Brooks. Why? Tell me why.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give credit to the offensive coaches. I think for them, the way they're scheming up their offenses, the plays, when they're calling them, changing the personnel, different type of plays that they're running. Give them credit, putting the guys in positions to make plays, using their strengths, the players, as far as making plays. I mean, you know what? And also catching defense off guard. I mean, things like, say, for instance, the Gardner Minshew. No one thought Gardner Minshew down in the red zone was going to run a zone read. You know what? And run the ball and then keep it at that, and get in for a touchdown. But those are the things that the offensive coaches are designing and scheming up against these defenses, and they've been successful. Well, as they were successful last week.
Yeah, I think it's that, but I also want to go to what Gardner said on Wednesday when the reporters asked him. You're making a whole bunch of chunk plays, and he kind of gives credit to the running game. I think part of it is the running game is able to open up, and they are creating some big plays in that front, so it's causing defenses to kind of be, play that a little bit more traditional instead of loading the box and doing all this. They're able to, spread things out, and I feel like it's opening up some creases. But you mentioned too, just being smart. Offensive calling has been smart, but also, you can't overlook a couple of the plays that happened on Sunday where Gardner Minshew kind of went into backyard football. You know, you have an offsides penalty. I know I've got in some ways you look at it as a free play. Let's take a chunk here. And being able to be one step ahead of the defense is always a smart play. So we saw that to the play to Josh Downs and also the big deep one to Alec Pierce. So a couple of those plays are thrown in there. And then I think we also saw you can't try to just push Michael Pittman to the ground or arm tackle him because he's a guy that's just going to say, thanks, I'll just keep running. And that's what we saw.
Give you the deuces.
Give you the deuces.
Actually, no, they were going for two.
They're going for two.
They're going for two.
Keep it straight. Keep it straight. No, staying in line with Halloween and scary good, I think it's crazy to think that the Colts have had two different starting quarterbacks. They've had several different offensive line combinations, guys that are stepping up front within that group like Blake Freeland and Wesley French. You know, Bernard Ryman has missed some time. Ryan Kelly has missed some time. Now Braden Smith is missing some time. We don't know if he's going to play on Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. You missed Jonathan Taylor, or did not have Jonathan Taylor for the first 4 games of the season. And here the Colts are. They're scoring 25 points per game.
Yep.
They are the only team in the NFL this year that has scored at least 20 points in every game. They're one of 3 teams on the season that rank in the top 10 in both rushing and passing to this point. I mean, it's crazy to think that all of those pieces of adversity, and yet here the Colts still are with the big plays, and they're right up there in terms of scoring output and average, Bill, with teams like Cincinnati, maybe not Cincinnati now, but Cleveland, Kansas City, teams like Philadelphia. The Colts are one of the best offenses in the NFL, primarily because of their scheme and the guy calling the plays, and Shane Steichen.
Definitely. I mean, that's what I was talking about earlier. He knows what he wants. He understands the players that he has here on the team. Yeah. He understands their strengths. You know, get Michael Pittman the ball, knowing that he can break some tackles. Zach Moss is doing a nice job running the ball between the tackles. He can break some big ones. Now you got Jonathan Taylor back to make some big plays. Josh Downs. Use Josh Downs in different ways. Use him in the slot. You could put him outside. The touchdown he caught against Jacksonville, he's played outside. So those are different things you can do for the offense and put him in different positions. So he's understanding the offense, understanding the player's strength, and putting them in position to make plays.
All right, let's talk about what's scary here elsewhere within this offense in terms of what's making it scary. The running game is at full strength. Like I just said, Jonathan Taylor is back. This is going to be his 4th straight game since coming off of PUP. Last week it was kind of a split right down the middle.
Yeah.
You know, the last couple of weeks, Jonathan Taylor's been creeping up. Last week it was a true 50-50 split. 35 snaps for Moss, 35 snaps for Taylor, 18 carries for both guys. Zach Moss a little bit banged up. He didn't practice on Wednesday as we sit here and tape this on Thursday. Casey, is this the week that Jonathan Taylor kind of creeps up and goes over the threshold?
I'm assuming that is the route we're going. We've seen it kind of a gradual easing him in, and I think last week we saw Jonathan Taylor as close to Jonathan Taylor as we would expect. I thought you saw the explosiveness, all of that. It's almost like he was, one step away from breaking one here or there. So I'm assuming that that's where we are. But it's hard. We talk about what Zach Moss has done to this point. He still ranks 2nd in the NFL in rushing yards right now, Zach Moss. And we're talking about...
And he's 1st in yards per game still.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy who we're saying, all right, Jonathan Taylor's going to get an expanded role. Zach Moss has earned that spot. So I think you're going to start seeing it be a little bit more favored towards a Jonathan Taylor, and that's because we know what Jonathan Taylor can do. He's one of the most explosive players in all of football, especially at the running back position, but just in general. So you anticipate it being more Jonathan Taylor heavy, but I do think that Shane Steichen, as he mentioned early in the year, that we're going to ride that hot hand, and Zach Moss has shown that he can have a pretty hot hand at times, and he's still one of the league leaders at this point. So we're going to start seeing a more ramp up, I think, of Taylor, but don't discount at all what Zach Moss can do.
Bill, how close is Taylor to becoming the scary good running back he was in 2021?
I think he's about that close, and people on the radio can't see me. Have my fingers very close, from about an inch apart.
Hey, we're on YouTube too.
Yeah,
Bill,
I know we're on YouTube. Except for the people on the radio that are listening, though.
Right.
So about an inch apart. So he's that close.
Little skosh, little dash,
little dash, little skosh there. I think he's close because it takes a while to get ramped up. He didn't have any camp. He didn't play any practice in camp. So missed the first few weeks of the season. So getting his legs back up under him, getting used to being hit again, getting used to the calls and the timing with the quarterback and things like that. So he's very close. And the thing I like right now that they're doing with Jonathan Taylor, he's involved in the passing game as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just running the ball. He's involved in the passing game. So that gives another dimension to this offense, and for the defense to look at, hey, you know what? Oh, Jonathan Taylor. Oh, he might get the ball in open field. That's pretty scary to a defense. You get Jonathan Taylor with the ball in open field, not many people around him, knowing his speed and what he can do with the football. I think that's a good thing for the Colts, and it's going to put some kind of trepidation in the defenses now, knowing that he can be outside or inside and run the ball.
I mean, listen, sometimes football's not that hard. Get the football into your hands of your best playmakers, some form, some fashion. That's Jonathan Taylor. To your point, I mean, I've been really impressed with the coaching staff's ability to think outside the box. Let's get the ball to Jonathan Taylor somehow in space and just let him go. Let him be the great athlete that he is. He's got 11 catches so far in the season, and he's got at least 45 yards receiving in back-to-back games going into this one for the first time in his career. So I love the way Shane Steichen is he's sort of like that mad scientist, right? He's like Dr. Frankenstein. I love these Halloween bits that we're doing right now, right? What's the guy's name where they got the little bolts in his neck? Is that Frankenstein? Who am I thinking of?
I think it's Frankenstein.
That's what Shane Steichen's doing all day long in the lab, gearing up for these games on offense. All right, let's talk about the scary bad. You got to talk about it because the Colts, they did so many things well, right? They scored a season-high 38 points. They racked up 456 yards of offense against the best defense in the NFL, but they still lost. And the big reason why is, Sunday's a reminder that it's just really hard to win football games in the NFL because the margin for error is so razor thin. When you turn the ball over 4 times, the Colts have turned it over 4 times in back-to-back games for the first time since 2010.
Wow.
All right, so it doesn't happen all that often, and Myles Garrett was an absolute beast. He was a nightmare for the Colts. He was like Freddy Krueger, the guy from Scream. He was all of those terrible characters all in one. This season, the Colts are 3-0 when they suffer 0 turnovers. In 4 losses, that's when all the turnovers come. 12 turnovers and 4 setbacks, and those 12 turnovers have led to 44 points on the season. The 8 turnovers in the last 2 games have led to 34 points for the Jaguars and the Browns. You're just not going to win when you turn it over that much. Bill, how concerned are you about these turnovers? Are they a blip on the radar? Because that's what we said last week coming after that Jaguars game. But are the turnovers something that the Colts are going to have to contend with until they just flat out clean it up here?
I'm concerned. I'm concerned with the turnovers because, as you just stated, it's a direct correlation between wins and losses.
Yeah.
When we don't turn the ball over, we win. When we do, we lose. And you have to stop turning the ball over. And on top of that, the Browns, when they got the turnovers, they took those turnovers and converted them to points. They got 17 points off those turnovers.
And they had, 5 scoring drives of 40 yards or less?
Yep.
Something was like Christmas Day.
Exactly.
Here's
a gift.
Here, beat us.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And you can't do that and win football games in the National Football League. So that is a concern for me that they have to find a way to make sure that they protect the ball, hold on to the ball, and not just not turn the ball over, but try to generate some more turnovers. Yes, they got 2 interceptions. The Colts got 2 interceptions. But you have to take those interceptions and convert them into points. Yeah. And we didn't convert those into points.
That's
so
exactly right.
I'm concerned about us turning the ball over more than I am us getting turnovers, but I would like to get turnovers, but I'm really concerned about us turning the ball over.
I agree with Bill. I'm concerned, but I do think part of it is twofold. I think to this point, outside of the Jacksonville game, Gardner Minshew has kind of been what we thought he would be as far as not throwing a lot of balls into harm's way. His interception rate, the Jacksonville game, you can put that, kind of as an outlier, but everything else, he's done a pretty good job. But one of the things that he has had a problem with in the past is fumbling the football.
And that's what Colts fans are thinking. Like, this is just like last year.
Exactly.
Every time we take a sack, not only do we take a sack, we lose possession of the ball.
So it's one of those things where I'm concerned, but I do think that this staff can, make play calls a little bit different, and you're trying to do things a little bit different to make sure the ball is getting out. Therefore, you're eliminating the chances of those fumbles on the sack. So that's where I'm concerned, but I do think when it comes to that standpoint, it can be fixed. I don't know necessarily how long it's going to take to fix it. I don't know how long you're going to be riding on this, but It is one of those things where, you kind of have to be concerned because it's alarming, especially when you look at what happened last week. From all accounts, outside of 95 for the Browns, there's no reason they should have even been in that game.
No.
Right.
Colts should
And
have
that's
scored
where it's
50
hard.
points
I
if
mean,
it wasn't for Myles
The
Garrett.
Colts should have won that game running away, but you look into 4 turnovers, and that's where it is. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shows you how important turnovers are. You know what I mean?
100%.
All the stats you just read about how powerful the offense was, how good the offense was, but still you lost the game because of those turnovers. And that's how powerful the turnovers are when you're talking about a game in the National Football League.
Another scary part was the total gut punch at the end of the game as the Browns go down the field. That was the scary part, is like you're thinking, all right, P.J. Walker in a quarterback. You got this home crowd behind us here at Lucas Oil Stadium. No chance they go down the field and score a touchdown and essentially win the game down by 5, and that's exactly what the Browns did. So we talked about all the turnovers and things like that, and there's no question that the defense is being put into some bad situations by the offense. But we all know that the next step for this defense to go from good to great or from great to elite is, no matter the situation they're put into, you got to come up with a stop. And of all these turnovers the last couple of weeks, 8 of them, in sudden change, 3 of those instances have directly led to touchdowns by the opposition. I know Myles Garrett had the 1 sack that led to a touchdown by the defense,
right?
But the opposing opposition has scored 3 touchdowns following turnovers the last 2 games. There's been some field goals sprinkled in there as well. But just, again, that's a gut punch. It's scary that the fact that, and when the game's on the line, when the Colts turn it over, Bill, the defense is still not consistently stepping up to the plate and getting off the field in sudden change. How does that happen? Because I know when as an offensive player, in your career, when you're right back on the field on offense, when your defense gets a takeaway, that's like a huge uplifting feeling.
Excited.
It's like, oh, we got to go play ball again.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of the opposite for a defensive player, where you're like, oh, we got to go back on the field again. What is the mentality for the defense to make sure that they rise these occasions now going forward, considering all the bad spots they've been put into, I should say, the last 2 games?
When you're a player out there on defense, you just have to realize our job is to stop the team from scoring, regardless of where they get the ball at, regardless if they get the ball on the 25-yard line and have to go 75 yards to score, or if they get the ball on our own 30 and only have 30 yards to score.
Yeah.
Have to try to stop them, have to figure out a way to stop them. And I think that's when you have to say, hey, guys, let's band together as brothers. This is what we have to do.
It truly is mindset.
It is mindset.
That's why they call it a sudden change, because you're scrambling.
Right, you're scrambling. And you have to also stay calm in those situations. As a defense, you have to stay calm, say, hey, look, they got the ball. Let's just run our defense. Let's execute our defense, and let's not make mistakes. And the thing you have to say is, okay, we can't let them score a touchdown. That's your mindset. Let's keep them out of the end zone scoring a touchdown. Mm-hmm. At worst, they can get a field goal. Then if they get a field goal, okay, it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. So I think that has to be their mindset going into when there's a sudden change. They have to go back out in the field, stay calm, but let's do our job, execute, and at worst, let's hold them to a field goal.
Are you more worried about the defense's ability to get off the field, or, to Bill's point, limit the damage and cause a field goal or induce a field goal, or are you more worried about since the start of last year, Casey, there's been 4 instances where the defense has allowed the game-winning or the go-ahead score in crunch time under 2 minutes, and all of those games have been home games, by the way.
Yeah, that is one thing that I really started to look at that was a little shocking, if I will be honest. I didn't in the moment you see it, but I didn't when you put it all together. I was almost forgot about all of those instances.
There was last week. There was the Washington game last year. There was the Eagles game last year.
Yep.
And then we forget about it because it was towards the end of last year.
With the
Houston game.
Yeah.
Week 18 last season.
And I don't want to discredit any of, but you think about also the quarterback play. It's not these elite guys like Jalen Hurts. You could definitely put him in that elite category, but it's Taylor Heineke, Davis Mills, and then P.J. Walker. So there is a little bit of concern there. The sudden change thing, it's a concern because it's a mentality. And you talk to any of the defensive players, and we talk to Kenny Moore later, I'm sure he'll say the same thing. Like, there's no excuses in this league. It doesn't matter if you, like Bill said, it doesn't matter where you get the ball.
We are in studio, as promised, joined now by Colts cornerback, the versatile number 23, Kenny Moore II. Kenny, how we doing today, man?
All good, all good.
Fantastic to have you here. Speaking of being fantastic, that is the perfect way to describe your season at this point. You had a fantastic game on Sunday, but if you look at these 7 games on the year, as I said, you lead the NFL in tackles among corners. You lead the NFL in tackles for loss among cornerbacks. You had a sack and a half. I'm saying you're having a great season. How do you feel like the season's going?
It's going all right.
You're a tough critic.
We have to be as athletes.
Sure.
We got to be our toughest one. There's a lot of opportunities that I could have did different to have a better outcome of some individual performances for, the defense and for the team. But it's all right. I mean, it's better than last year.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, let's go there because I know last year it was. You admitted in the offseason it was a tough year for you, and you had a hard time kind of getting on the same page with a new coaching staff. That doesn't seem to be the problem at all this going around in year number 2. Why do you think you fit in a lot better schematically in year number 2 under Gus Bradley here?
You said it. The first year is going to be the first year.
Mm-hmm.
It was, tough trying to have the green light or trying to do things that, I wanted to do and things that I thought was best for not only myself but for the defense. You kind of got to take the back seat sometimes. So it was always respect on both sides, trying to find the fine line,
Mm-hmm.
But everything happened the way it happened, and a lot of conversations and discussions happened, this past offseason to be where we are right now. So collectively, I think everybody's happy and everybody's in the position to make
right.
Plays here and there. So I like where everybody's coming along collectively.
Now, you talked about your first year in Gus Bradley's defense. You have some young guys right now on the team. It's their first year in Gus Bradley's defense. Last week's game was a tough game for everybody. What do you, as a veteran, say to the young guys about a game like last week?
Things happen. And honestly, it's just one of those things where, you can only control, what you can control. And so, last week, there's a lot of things that got out of our hand, and there's a lot of things that we couldn't control about last week. But, we just got to keep playing and keep playing hard. But I think it's, still early in the season, and something that we said after the game that I truly believe in is being your best in November. Being your best in November, and, to end the rest of the season, you want to be at your best. And, some teams, they go up, some teams go down. But you got to find that happy medium where you're going to play better and better each week. So that's something that I said to him.
Now, I want to ask you about your play. Now, you play both inside and outside. You play both very well.
I'm glad you know that.
Well, I know that. A lot of people do know that because they see how you play. And I want to know, what is your approach to playing each? Is it, if there's any difference, and which one do you prefer?
Oh, it's a reset on each position. Sometimes, obviously, first and second down is usually base, depending on what team you're playing against. Usually it's going to be a rundown or big people.
Right.
Down. And then third down is pretty much all the gimmicks and all the fast people come in, and a lot of different moving parts is going on. You got to react to jets and motions, communication. You got to be something that we used to say around here was accelerated vision, and that's something you have to have, not only as a defensive back, but having that at nickel. And you got to have that leadership at nickel as well. So leadership aspect, the role aspect at corner, outside corner, and then moving inside, those aspects are completely different because I have to talk to the outside corner. I have to talk to the safety pretty much every play. I'm talking to Z pretty much every play at nickel. But whenever I'm at corner, I'm not usually talking to the linebackers. I'm usually just talking to Julian or Rodney Thomas. So which do I prefer?
You don't have to say if you don't want to.
So you can make more plays on the ball at nickel.
Yeah.
Schematically, you're going to be in different disguises. You're going to be in different areas of the field to make a play on the ball. So I think at nickel, whenever the offense break the huddle, the quarterback is probably looking at the nickel. He's probably he's probably looking at the linebackers, or he's looking at the safety that's walking down into his coverage or so.
Right.
But whenever I'm at corner, I'm not really seeing the quarterback that much look at me. But if he doesn't have a hit on what's going on, he definitely looks at the outside corner to tell, okay, so I mean, usually corners they're in their own space, and if they're in man, they're just looking at the receiver.
Yeah.
But me being a nickel, I get those type of keys on the offense. So I understand, like, if I'm outside corner and we're in man, I'm trying to pretty much not show that I'm in man. I'm pretty much looking
disguise it. Yeah.
That's a 101 right there. Bill.
I like that.
I feel like I just got better at football right there with that description from Kenny Moore II. And going along with that, Ron Miles, your position coach, today actually said that, you're so good and you're so versatile, and there's been talk about, the Colts being banged up at the cornerback spot. Why not just put Kenny on the outside? He said, I don't want to do that because Kenny is so good playing nickel, and if I take him out of that position, that takes away our flexibility to have him do other things, specifically come in the box at times based on the formation. And depending on what the offense is doing, sometimes you're in the box playing the will linebacker position. And, I mean, that goes right, that jives with your 46 tackles on the season. What makes you such a good tackling cornerback, if you will?
A good tackling corner. I think that just goes back to my background of being at Lowndes High. And being in Valdosta, Georgia, all we did, I mean, we were very, very physical down there. We did a lot of hitting. We were very intentional on that aspect of the game, was trying to drive out that fear. And so driving out that fear just came with the preparation of practice, and we were hitting a lot in practice. And so, as a young kid, I mean, I'm playing my senior year of high school, or even, in middle school whenever I played ball, we did a lot, and that's something that I fear. I'm like, this is too physical for me. But the more you do something, the better you become at it. I think if you stay intentional, if you stay resilient. So I think my stature, it never really fazed me of how I looked, just how I perceived, like, that aspect of the game. My rookie year, I got stiff-armed by Derrick Henry versus Tennessee, and it was one of those times where I'm like, dang, I'm not liking it out here. And I was trying to get a sub, but my coach, Coach G. Williams, he was like, nah, stay out there. And at that time, I was like, dang, it's just me and him out here. Like, I gotta make it next time. But it's just one of those aspects of the game that you don't really have to tell me twice to do.
Sure. Yeah, well, it's coming to fruition here. Along with that, as I said, you got a sack and a half against Cleveland the other day. That takes your total to 9.5 sacks since 2018. In that time, you lead all NFL corners in sacks. All right, take me through it. You've gotten picks. You've gotten pick sixes. You've gotten tackles for loss. Where does a sack for a cornerback, where does that rank in the adrenaline meter, like jacked up? Is that better than a pick?
No.
No.
All right, fair enough.
Interceptions are so hard to get, and everybody just can't do it.
Right.
Not to say that everybody can't do sacks, but I mean, you got guys out there, not talking about DBs, but you got guys out there that's sacking the quarterback 20 times a year, and I mean, that's hard to do for them as well. But you just won't see 20 interceptions. You won't see that.
Yeah.
Having an interception in the game is so much. I mean, you got to be in a perfect spot, perfect time, perfect. I would say focus. Like my drop one last week, it could have went either way, but like in the heat of the moment, I'm thinking, oh, this is catch. Like I saw the ball in the air, I was like, all right, this is a pick. Let's get ready to celebrate. And so like whenever I was going to the ground, I took my right hand off to brace myself.
Okay.
And totally forgot about the ball because I'm so thinking about. We've been talking about celebrating all week. Let's celebrate. And so that was one of those things where I was like, dang, I just let myself down, but I can't. Like, I never got it.
Yeah.
I never got it. So it's just one of those things where I just got to stay in the moment and stay focused 100%. But I would say sacks will rank probably second.
Number two?
Because I'm thinking about having a forced fumble or a fumble recovery.
Okay.
And those are underneath a sack.
There you go.
Sack is like, I can do what you do.
Yeah.
Like I can do what you do, but
yeah.
like I can do it too.
Yeah. No one's making a one-handed grab against Darren Waller like he did picking off Derek Carr a couple years ago.
Yeah, that doesn't happen often.
No. Now you talk about making plays and being out there and reading your keys and doing things like that. When you're studying wide receivers and watching film, first of all, how much time do you spend watching film? And second, what are you looking for in the wide receivers when you go out against wide receivers each week?
Great question. So we watch film obviously in the classroom in the meeting rooms. And we do an extra meeting on Wednesdays, just trying to hit the third downs. And so us being intentional about that this year, it's something that Mike Mitchell brought to the team in 2018 whenever he came over to the Colts. But we started doing that on Wednesdays. Thursdays, I hit a little film on Thursdays, but it's not like a lot of film. Friday, I would hit most of the film.
Okay.
I'm hitting a lot of film on Fridays and Saturdays, and then obviously on Sundays. I'm not looking at anything on Sundays. Monday and Tuesday, I'm looking back over the game, and then Tuesday I'm watching pretty much all the other teams play, like guys that I like to watch play, or okay, what was that score to that game? Okay, let me check out that game. Let me see how this game went on. Even if we aren't playing these two teams, or if sometimes I catch two teams that we're going to play, so it's good that I'm already watching this because we're going to play them at some point.
Right.
Whenever I do watch film, I'm just trying to take away 2 or 3 things that I'll remember. If this receiver does this in this type of formation, if he has a tendency to do this, if he has a tendency to push off, does he have a tendency to stair-step his overs?
Okay.
Those are the things that I'm trying to take away. So, like, if he's stair-stepping his over, I'm not going to be quick to jump the over. I'm going to kind of tempo it patiently, and then once he makes that second move over to the over, now I got to burst. Now I got to strain to get over there. And it's been better and better every single year. I remember in 2018, 2019, I wasn't as intentional of taking, these key things away. I was just watching film, just say, oh, yeah, I watch film. Yeah, I'm good. And it's one of those things where, like, as a younger guy, you don't really know until you know, like, how can things benefit you instead of just trying to do what everybody else does. So,
Right.
I had one more point that I was going to make, but, yeah, just pretty much just 2 or 3 things. Like the toss last week, I saw the bunch, and I don't really want to give away. But
Yeah, don't give away.
coming,
Don't give away your secrets or anything, but just want to know in
hit
general.
on a couple of things that may show up in the game. Maybe it doesn't.
Right.
But you just want to have those things ready.
Piggyback off of that, you say you watch other guys from other teams, and as far as playing defensive back, who else in the league do you look at to get a couple of ideas from and see what they're doing out there against certain wide receivers or things like that, or who do you look up to, I should say?
I really like Denzel Ward's game. We train together in the offseason sometimes, some years, and I definitely want to give people their flowers whenever I see them.
Okay.
Whether people value that or not, I value, just saying, hey, I like your game.
Sure.
I told him after the game, actually, this past Sunday, I was like,
Always an enjoyable conversation with Kenny Moore II. As I said, the longest tenured Colts player on defense. Hard to believe he's been here since 2017. We talk about Ryan Kelly on offense. It's Kenny Moore II on defense. That was a fantastic conversation. All right, he's going to be tasked with slowing down this Saints offense coming up on Sunday. That's what I want to close out the show with here. And if you look at the Saints, and you guys know me and my cheesy metaphors, so this one popped in my brain earlier this week. Casey, on game day, on Sunday of all days, I've got all my notes ready to go. I'm in the car. I'm pushing the start button on the old trusty Hyundai Elantra, and the bad boy won't start. Game day, I'm trying to get the Lucas Oil Stadium dead battery.
Really? I did not know this.
Dead battery.
What?
Really?
Day of the game. Yeah, so I had to call AAA. The guy came in, bada boom, bada bing, gone. So here I am. I'm ready to go. So I'm driving north to Lucas Oil Stadium. Shout out to the surface repair guy. He was in and out. I forget his name, but gosh, he was quick and efficient. Just like us here in the podcast. Right? But I think the Saints offense is like a dead battery.
All
right, because they're only averaging about 19 points per game. They only got 12 touchdowns, and it's perplexing down in Cajun country because you look at all the players they've got. They've got Carr, they've got Olave, Michael Thomas, Juwan Johnson's coming back, Alvin Kamara catching the ball, running the ball out of the backfield. How do the Colts, Bill, on defense, how do they make sure no jumper cables come out at Lucas Oil Stadium on Sunday and that battery for the Saints remains drained?
Well, hopefully to keep that battery drained, I think one of the things they have to do is make sure that Alvin Kamara doesn't get started. Mm-hmm. Don't let him get started. Don't let him get going, because I think they probably want to run the ball because there has been some miscommunication, some problems with connection out there in regards to
Look at this.
Derek
There's
Carr.
the positive, there's the negative. All right, the miscommunication there.
There's no connection.
Olave's going to the minus sign. Thomas is going to the plus.
Exactly. So there's some miscommunication out there between Derek Carr, the receivers, and things going on out there from an offensive standpoint. Keep that problem for the Saints going, all right? And I think one of the things you can do is stop Alvin Kamara, put them in 3rd and long, make them pass the ball. I'm sure they haven't got all things worked out yet, the kinks worked out, but make them continue to pass the ball, and hopefully you can slow down Kamara and then put them in 3rd and long and make them have to pass and put the ball in Derek Carr's hands. Don't get me wrong. I think Derek Carr is a fine quarterback. Mm-hmm. He plays very well. But I think right now he's getting adjusted to the Saints, getting adjusted to the new offense. It's taking them a while to get going, and let them still have that confusion out there by putting more pressure on him. Hopefully 3rd and long. You stop Alvin Kamara, 3rd and long, make him throw the ball.
And Derek Carr might as well be playing for the Tennessee Titans because he plays the Colts every year. Right? It's like a division game for him.
6 straight seasons.
This is going to be the 6th consecutive year the Colts will play Derek Carr.
And I mean that's a really funny point. I didn't think about it, in those terms. But I mean, 6 straight years. Yeah. You get to that point where I feel like I know Derek Carr pretty well, and I don't know anything about the Saints. It's one of those things that when I started diving into the Saints, I was like, man, these guys I haven't thought about in so long. But then you're like, but Derek Carr's there. I know what he does so well. So that is funny.
Well, let me ask you this, because the Saints defense to this point of the season, Bill talked about how up and down their offense has been. That's been the unit. Their defense has been the unit that's been powering the battery. We saw the Colts just dominate and thrash and gash the Browns last week for 456 and 38 points. The Saints are top 5 overall defense. They're top 4 in stopping the run. They got a really good front 7. They got a really good back end with Marshawn Lattimore leading the charge there. Are you confident the Colts can take full advantage of the Saints just like they did the Browns despite those numbers coming in? I
am. I'm becoming more and more bullish on Shane Steichen every week. There's things that he does that I'm like, man, he just has this.
I didn't think much of you at the beginning of the season. But I'm coming around on you, Coach.
That's not what I'm saying. But there's just something to, like, you head into a week where you're not necessarily counted out, but it's almost like, oh, you think so? Here's what I'm going to do to you. I mean, we saw that game against the Titans. It was, you're not going to be able to run it all against this Tennessee Titans front. They're really good. And all of a sudden it was like, boom, big run after big run after big run after big run. And then last week, this Browns defense, one of the best in the last 50 years, and you go up and put almost 500.
Was no problem.
Yeah, I mean, you almost put up 500 total yards out there. So I don't know necessarily if we're going to see a repeat like last week. I think last week there were also a handful of things that played into those big numbers. We talked about it, the offsides penalties you're able to take advantage of, Michael Pittman breaking a tackle for a 75-yard score. All those end up adding to a lot of the big numbers. But I do think that the Colts and Shane Steichen are going to be able to, carve up some things in the Saints defense just because that's kind of what we've seen in him to this point. So I'm not at all surprised when he's able to go at some of these teams. I mean, this Colts offense, they're top 10 in both running and passing, and that's nothing to just throw away because we're through 7 weeks of this. So that's a pretty good sample size.
Yes.
So I think we know what this Colts offense can do, and I like their chances to put up another good performance against this defense.
And both of these teams, we talked about the Colts and the schedule. It's kind of heating up as far as adversity away from Lucas Oil Stadium coming up after Sunday. Only one home game in the month of November, and that doesn't come until the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So it's going to be about a month before the Colts play in front of the faithful at Lucas Oil Stadium. But the bigger picture here, Bill, is that both of these teams are 3-4. The Saints are coming off of that Thursday night game, kind of that mini bye. A lot of people are throwing some stuff at their house. The offensive coordinator is kind of under fire a little bit. Dennis Allen's under fire a little bit. Derek Carr, maybe some fans are saying, man, we got buyer's remorse on this guy after we spent a lot of money on him in free agency in the offseason. But they've had some time to kind of tweak and fine-tune some stuff, clean up some of that miscommunication that they've had to this point on offense. It just seems like this is a turning point type of game for both teams. Both teams 3-4. You're going into that middle part of the season. The Colts are going to play some road games coming up. It seems like it's a put up or shut up type of game for both teams that have a lot to play for.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's very important this week coming up against the Saints and for the Saints as well. For both those teams to play well and for the teams that want to win. From the Saints standpoint, they want to stay within the striking distance of the division. You know what? They're behind a little bit, but they want to stay in striking distance. So they don't want to lose another game, go to back-to-back games where they lose. And for the Colts, for me, it's getting back on track, getting back on that winning track, especially at home.
Yeah.
Okay, you beat the Tennessee Titans here at home, and then you lose to Cleveland. We got to start backing those wins up, those big wins, because that was a big win against Tennessee.
Yep.
You got to back those wins up with more wins at home and, kind of establish that home dominance again, that, when teams come in to Lucas Oil Stadium, they know it's going to be a very difficult day to play and to win football games there. And I think they have to get to that point, and that's why I think this week is a big game for the Colts against the Saints.
The Colts won in their last 9, winning at home.
Yeah.
It's bizarre to think about that. I mean, you're 1-8 in the last 9 games at home. And I agree, Bill. I think it's a put up or shut up kind of game. And for a lot of reasons, I think you never look forward. But if you look at this next 3-game stretch before the bye, it's a very winnable schedule. I'm not trying to say the Colts should go out, but there are games that they can really help get that momentum swing, and you're always looking around, especially the division, but also in the AFC. And you look at Jacksonville; they're winners of the last 4. Yeah. So you have to start racking together some wins just to stay on their heels, to put the pressure on. And I know this team wants to. I mean, you have seen when this team plays well, they can compete with anybody. So when you look at the playoffs and all of that stuff, it's obtainable for this team. You just have to get back on track. And I think there's no better way to do that than at home. Right. I mean, these guys are wanting to win at home. You saw the victory against Tennessee. We all think they should have won last weekend, but you still come away with a loss. Getting a win at home, setting up back-to-back road trips, one of them going to Germany. It'd be really good to kind of string together a good streak, and then you get a week off to kind of reset a bunch of things, and you really go out of that bye with a real positive note, hopefully.
Yeah, 3 games to the bye. That's a real big benchmark right now for this team. Yeah. If you're 6-4 with a week off,
100%.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep.
Oh, now you're cooking, baby, and now you're getting ready for Thanksgiving. You got a little fried turkey there, all the
you're
sides.
Feeling a whole lot better.
And then you return home to Lucas Oil Stadium and play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Great stuff right there here on this spooky, what's scary, that's terrifying edition of the official Colts podcast 5 days before Halloween. Bill Brooks, Casey Vallier, I'm Matt Taylor. Bill, you might get rained on Sunday during the pregame show. We might have to move you in.
That's all right. I don't mind the rain. It won't bother me too much.
Tough guy. Wow, tough guy over here. Wow.
Look, if I could play in Buffalo and below zero, I could play in Buffalo and below zero weather
That's true.
or the rain. So yeah, so I can I can deal with a little rain.
It just circles. Snow and rain just circles right around Buffalo.
It's more so for the equipment I'm worried about, not me. I'm worried about the equipment out there, not me on that.
Keep an eye out for the forecast if you're going to the game on Sunday. There is rain in the forecast, so dress appropriately and tailgate appropriately for a huge game here in late October. It's the Colts and the Saints kick off on Sunday, 1 o'clock. You can hear all the action on the Bell Tire Radio Network, locally in Indianapolis, of course, on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, and our sister station there, 97.1 Hank FM. Casey has got the countdown to kickoff beginning at noon, and then Bill